Joining me on this broadcast, Lieutenant General KJ Singh, a defense expert, former Indian diplomat Rajiv Dogra. But I want to begin this broadcast and I want to begin this debate by asking my first question to a columnist who joins us from Toronto, Dean Baxendale. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us here on this broadcast. And Mr. Baxendale, I would like to ask you, why do you think we see this lack of political will? Or why do we see a repeat of this ever-rising hate against India, this ever-rising Khalistani movement in Canada?
Well, thank you for having me on. Actually, I'm in Washington today meeting on a number of key issues around diaspora communities globally. I think, once again, I don't understand. India is a great ally of Canada. We have 1.4 million diaspora community members originating from India, both Sikh and Hindu, as well as Muslim. But this continued rise in this rhetoric, and not in Canada not wanting to actually combat these issues where terrorist elements and extremist elements get a voice under some sort of perception that they should have free speech rights, and yet we see them attacking individuals of the Hindu community, at large, at events. This is not free and fair protest, and quite frankly, the Canadian government and the intelligence agencies in Canada have a duty to protect all Canadian citizens from such violence and extremism. But these kinds of things have been leveraged, and unfortunately, we have an NDP leader who has also shown his kinship or certainly sympathy towards the Sikh separatist movement inside Canada. And of course, Justin Trudeau's government is hanging in the balance based on the alliance between the NDP and the Liberals.
Yes, but it's not just Justin Trudeau. We've seen this through decades, really, and this is just how it's been. There has been always pleas that have fallen on deaf ears. These attacks that have been turned a blind eye to, and unfortunately nothing changes. For decades together, India has been raising these issues, and Rajiv Dogra, I want to get you in on that. One government after another, there just seems to be no political will. I mean, the highest envoy diplomat of our country, the High Commissioner there, is walking around with a target on his back.
Well, you're right. It all started with Justin Trudeau's father, Pierre Trudeau, when he was the Prime Minister of Canada. He was told by his own intelligence agencies that these Sikh terrorists are planning to plant a bomb in one of the Air India aircraft, which is exactly what happened in 1985. So he ignored all those warnings. So he has the blood of 300 plus Indians and Canadian citizens on his hands. He's gone, but he's transferred that legacy to his son. Now, the first thing Canada should have done was to have extradited those responsible for that aircraft's bombing in 1985. It did not do that. In fact, it has done the exact opposite by releasing the terrorists prematurely. The second thing is, a sense of wonder I have. Why is it that every 5-6 days, Justin Trudeau, the present Prime Minister of Canada, gets up, says something which makes no sense for a Prime Minister to be saying? I mean, last 6 months, he's only been saying that there are allegations. Then this time, he's gone a step forward and he says he doesn't want to fight with India. I mean, is it a wrestling match that he's the Prime Minister of? What also surprises me is that every time his opinion ratings go down in Canada, he comes up with this same formula of allegations and fight and so on. Now, over 6 months, are his intelligence agencies in a better position to tell us who the murderers were? Do they have the car numbers? Do they have photographs of the murderers? Have they captured them, or have they vanished in thin air? Or is it that the murderers were from the party which is supporting Justin Trudeau, and it was all an in-house job planned to put India in a corner? And that is what he started doing from his first statement. So, there are more question marks than answers in his consistency in being inconsistent with what he's saying. He has no proof at all. He refuses to share any evidence. Otherwise, normally he would have even gone public with the evidence that he had. Obviously, he keeps saying we have given evidence without showing any proof of that evidence. So, Justin Trudeau is putting Canada in a spot which even Pakistan was not, because Pakistan never admitted to any terrorism, whereas Justin Trudeau is sleeping with the terrorists in his cabinet. He's got his coalition partners as declared Khalistani terrorists. So Canada is going a couple of steps beyond what Pakistan was as a terror state. So I think Canadian people need to watch out what they are heading in for and the trouble that stares them in the face, not just from Khalistani terrorists, but from terrorists all across the world who find refuge in Canada.
Right, and it's domestic compulsions, perhaps, Dean Baxendale. The fact that, popularity that currently Trudeau has, the lack thereof, if I could say so, that is perhaps why we're seeing him make comments like this, perhaps trying to divert attention of his voters, of his countrymen, from the actual issues that matter.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. Unfortunately, we've now created an international incident with a close ally and a values-based society in India that we need to combat other, geopolitical threats. Why Justin Trudeau has leveraged this for his own political gain obviously could be seen by the poll numbers, and it's tragic that we are, playing, footloose and fancy free with facts and information. However, I will say once again, and I have said this on your program before, I think at this particular point in time, there is going to be no evidence coming forward to demonstrate this, given the actual ongoing investigation. Having said that, I think that the diplomacy here between the two nations has been clearly lacking in the sharing of information and insights on both sides. And we have done very little, to your point and your last guest's comments, to actually combat any of this kind of extremism inside the country.
And it's not just extremism that's rising, Lieutenant General KJ Singh, isn't it? It's organized crime that also Justin Trudeau seems to not be caring about. We see these gang wars break out every now and then, especially in the last 6 to 8 months. That is something that India has also been pointing to, that there is organized crime there, and that is something perhaps they should look into, because they are linked. We are seeing these kind of gang wars that take place and the anti-India sentiment that is being whipped up, and you cannot isolate one from the other.
See, Poonam, Jai Hind, thank you for having me on your show. The problem is Canada has allowed a kind of a very sort of open or very lax kind of an ecosystem where large number of players are operating. There are gangsters from India who are holed up there and they are operating from there. There is evidence of China having set up police stations, illegal ones, and having applied coercion on Canadian citizens. There is also talk of ISI agents who had eliminated Balochi activists who were living in Canada. Now with this kind of environment where it is a free for all, you have somebody like Hardeep Singh Nijjar, who definitely was not an above board personality. He was dealing in a lot of things, extortion. See, entire music industry in Punjab, there is extortion taking place. And the people who control that extortion are sitting in Canada. So now Nijjar was part of, some people say drugs, some people say extortion, some people say taking money from Gurdwaras. So where is the guarantee who has, or how can we prove that who's done this? With so many players there. Some people say Chinese could have engineered it. So the best thing for Trudeau is to give the evidence, clear evidence. If there is something sensitive, give it in a sealed cover. Give it to India.